Welcome to Aunt Lainey's Kitchen. I am your host, Aunt Lainey. On this episode, we are rolling out the red carpet for October and all it has to offer. I'm discussing setting up refreshments for cozy autumn movie nights, restaurant reviews of a few places located in downtown Kansas City. I'm cooking solo today in the kitchen. And I will assure you, though, that, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be back to the interviews. But, it was a really hectic kind of couple weeks for me. As you may or may not know, if you know me, my mom did suddenly pass away a couple of weeks ago. And so that kind of put some things on hold as far as interviews. I had to cancel a couple of things and, get everything taken care of. And we had a lovely service for her last week, and I am back in the kitchen recording this podcast because I definitely wanted to do that. And talking about food and memories makes me feel closer to my mom. And so here we are, and we are here in October. So I want to say hello to October, where the days are still a little warm, right, in Kansas City, but that evening air is becoming crisper by the moment. And as the days are growing shorter and shorter, we're feeling kind of like that crisper air. Even in the morning, I'm noticing that, the air is just a little bit crisper. Although, again, being in Kansas City, you never know what you're going to get. Sometimes by 12 o'clock, it's 85 degrees again or 80 degrees. But I am noticing just that little bit of chill in the air. So during my childhood, October meant fall festivals, hayrack rides, caramel apples, hot apple cider, chili, warm cinnamon rolls, corduroy clothing, and mountain vests, just to kind of name a few things that make me think of October, right? It's also the gateway to cozy weekends spent at home watching movies, especially scary movies. Our parents loved watching scary movies, especially our mom. And, growing up in Topeka, Kansas, it meant we stayed up late on Friday nights to watch the Friday Fright Night. And we spent Saturday nights watching the creature feature and Sunday afternoons watching the classic horror flicks. And sometimes the movies were really corny. They're kind of more corny versus scary. And these scary movie nights required buttered popcorn, licorice, black cherry soda, and whatever seasonal candy was available for purchase. And we spent the commercial breaks running into the kitchen to fill up our trays of treats. And there's some movies I don't even remember the plots, right? Because this is in the olden days before you could kind of look up things on your phone or on a laptop on the internet, be like, what's this about? We either had to rely that someone in the room had already seen the movie, or they used to have these books where like these big kind of like unabridged movie books, and you could kind of sort of try to look up titles there if you could find anything. You couldn't always find the titles though. And so, there are some movies I to this day I don't even know what I was watching, right? Because all I could think of is like I'm sitting here, I'm having fun with my family, and again, I'm eating on the tray of treats, and those are what kind of stayed locked in my memory more than the plot of some of those cheesy, scary movies. Now, just to kind of give you like, another bit of a layer to this, in the olden days, this is even before VCRs, you'd have to like be able to go to that commercial break, right? You'd have to know exactly, you had to go run to the bathroom, then you had to like run and get your food or whatever it was. And, if you had to time it just right. And sometimes, during the middle of like, let's say it's like a 2 hour or 2.5 hour movie or something on TV, there's going to be the commercials. You kind of knew when it hit a certain spot of it, like, when you're at the 45-minute mark or the 90-minute mark, those are going to be like the longer commercials. So you kind of knew when you could go and grab food and when you could kind of slowly like run to the bathroom or, answer a phone call, anything like that. You kind of had an idea of that, and you couldn't just pause things and go, okay, hang on, we're gonna, pause things, get it together, and then bring it, the movie or the TV show back on. So, decades later, I still appreciate a good movie night, and I really appreciate a good refreshment table spread. Now, admittedly, my current tastes have moved beyond just popcorn, candy, and soda. I like to prepare like a movie snack bites board, right? And I use like small savory items such as like a small cheese, quesadilla sliced into fourths. So what I do is instead of, you can make quesadillas on any size kind of tortillas. of tortillas. But what I like to do is I like to kind of take that smaller, the street taco size, and maybe I'll go and I'll make about I'll use 2 tortillas and I'll, put the cheese and whatever ingredients I want to put on there. And then I have a panini maker now that I can use. But before in the olden days, I'd use like a cast iron skillet and a lid and get it, get kind of, and then I had a grill mark pan too. So if I wanted to put some grills on there before I had my panini maker, I would do that. So I would make about maybe like 4 of those and I cut them into fourths. And that way, again, it gave me kind of a little bit of heft when it was just me doing it, or if I was kind of sharing the snacks with one other person, I would probably do about 6 of those and just cut those into fourths. But if I had more than that, I would just kind of cook up the whole package and kind of see, what happens with that, and also give people the option of I would give people the option of making their own quesadillas kind of early on in the evening, because again, movie nights, I believe in having a cocktail hour. So like let's say the movies are going to start, like we're going to start the movie at 8, then I'm going to make that cocktail hour from 5:45 to about 7:30, and then we're going to get kind of get people together. Like I'm going to get people together like, hey, we're going to start the movie soon, so everyone can kind of do what they need to do, take the pictures they want to take. Maybe they want to look at something else on YouTube real quick before the movie starts. And then, we start the movie, and that's kind of, how I do it. That way people get a chance to unwind. And if they want to eat like heavier food, if we've got pizza there, then they can do that if that's what they want to do. And then, then of course I've got the snack bites board, and I'm using that as well. But also, what I like to do is I'll use like a mild salsa, and I'll either buy that in the store or I'll make it from scratch from like leftover things that I might have. And maybe I'll have like a few slices of pepperoni or pancetta there on that board, and then maybe some small seasoned crackers, some bite-sized pieces of licorice, like maybe like I have different types of cake pans, and I've got like these little these cake those the cake, kind of the cake ball things that you can make. And yeah, I have I've got a pan that makes those, and so then I'll maybe use like a vanilla cake bite, and then maybe a sparkling lemon apple mocktail or a regular soda just to wash it all down. I try to keep things really simple. It's so easy though these days, and I've talked about in interviews before where you just get carried away. You're like, I've got this idea. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna do, and then now I want to kind of like, maybe I'll go on social media and try to get some more ideas, or I'll do like a Facebook post or something like that to see if maybe I can brainstorm some more things. And you just get caught up in it. And pretty soon, your very simple kind of, movie snack bites board, instead of having like 4 or 5 items, now you've got 12 items. And now you're like going to the store, you're like, oh my gosh, I've got to have this. And it just becomes this thing that, again, it doesn't necessarily need to be, but, it's really hard not to get carried away, because I love cooking and I love kind of like communicating with people and getting those great ideas. And so yeah, I always have to kind of like watch myself that I'm not going overboard with it, but it's so much fun, right? And so I think TV trays are helpful, right? I do, because especially if there's going to be more than a couple of guests, because sometimes what you do, like I've been to movie parties where they kind of have the TV and then they've got like some kind of cardboard, like a card table, I should say, card table situation, some chairs around it, you kind of eat and, watch the movie like that. But, again, the cocktail hour kind of helps you if you're going to do like a heavier food, you don't really need to do all that. But I do think TV trays are very helpful. Because you can be in the room, right? Let's say, for the guests, and you can try these different types of foods without the fear of spilling on the floor or anything like that. You've got the TV tray you can kind of hover over. Also, certain horror movies do have jump scare scenes that can cause your refreshments to go flying through the air. And so one of the things I like to do just to kind of lessen the chance of that, uh uh of the jump scare scene. And I'm not saying I mean, of course, I do feel like I'm attacking myself because I have been that person that spilled things in a jump scare scene. I do try to serve popcorn in smaller containers with lids, or, use a bag that's resealable. You can kind of dig in there and kind of have it. And then maybe for like the actual liquids, I might have like a mid-sized travel mug for myself, or just, have the kind of, paper cups or whatever. I might use those that have a lid on them. Maybe I can, suck it through a straw or something like that. So that, again, that kind of minimizes the chances of there being like a jump scare accident. I'm not saying that hasn't, that's been me, although it has been me several times. So maybe I should just admit to it because people listening to this podcast that know me are probably side-eyeing their phones right now or wherever they're using to listen to the podcast. Now, October is also a really great month for throwing on a cozy hoodie with jeans and sitting on a patio, a deck, or a balcony, sipping on a steaming cup of hot cocoa, or maybe even a warm apple cider toddy. Yes, please. And so, again, I really like October for that for myself. And, maybe having people over, maybe it's just myself, because the weather, there's coolness to the weather, but it's not so cold where, you gotta do a blanket or it's just too cold to be outside. Another thing that October kicks off is soup season. And it looks a little different this year because as I stated before, my mom passed away a couple of weeks ago and she was all about soup, right? She appreciated all types of soups, the soups that were made lovingly from scratch, also canned beef stews that, are designed to kind of stick to your ribs. And she always had some kind of hunk of bread to dip into the stew. She liked to add a little cheese sometimes to the stew, a little mild cheddar. It didn't matter. She had to have her mild cheddar and she'd wash it down with like a diet soda or something like that, or maybe like some water. And that's something, again, soup season is going to be a little bit harder. I did last February actually, and it seems so I feel like the time is just flying by, but last February I did a soup party where and it was kind of based on this meme that I saw on Facebook about, hey, what if everybody had a soup party and people brought like their favorite soups that they like to make or eat, and then they just had enough for like people to like take some soup to go. So it was like a soup to go party, and it was really exciting. And it took me forever to plan it because there was weather issues and there was issues with scheduling. So finally, I was able to kind of do it over Valentine's Day weekend last year, and what I had people do is, of course, bring their favorite soups and stuff like that. And then I had these to-go cups. So if you liked a soup, like I had little sampling cups, so you'd kind of sample the soup. And if you liked it, you would take a little bit, you'd ladle some in a like a little soup to go um container and you take it home and I ended up with some great soups that way. And yeah, I mean it was so people had so much fun like afterwards they're like you got to do this again. Unfortunately 2024 it just got to be too busy. I had a party for myself in April, but it was a little, it was a little warmer outside, so we weren't really doing soup like that. That was more of a dip party. That's a whole other episode that I'll do on that. But it was really cozy, and I didn't do it in October. I did it in February, but October for me is a great month when I start thinking about soup, it is definitely, I know it's October, and maybe someday I'll be able to kind of line it up where I can do that. It's just October's so challenging when you've got, people in your life that have kids and nieces and nephews. They're doing a lot of their stuff in October. So I'd have to figure out how I could do something like that, or maybe just kind of have it literally be soup to go, like where I make all these soups and people try them and they just kind of take them to go. Who knows? That's, again, I have a whole other year to kind of think about that. And maybe there'll be a soup to go party in October 2025. We'll just have to see. So, my definition of a proper soup, it involves a well-seasoned broth that has 3 to 4 ingredients tops, right? And the flavors and textures of the ingredients, they have to go well together for me. And sometimes I've been known to sit outside on a blustery fall weekend day, enjoying a steaming bowl of chicken and rice soup with just a wee bit of yellow onions added. And that is a very kind of special meal for me because when I was, a struggling college student, I would chicken noodle soup would be like, like there'd just be like this prevalent amount of it. And so I would run to the store and get some. And then I would have like some rice, some kind of like sticky minute rice kind of thing, instant rice thing. And then I would cook those up. And then, if I was feeling particularly luxurious, I would also purchase yellow onions because usually that's kind of was, my preference back then. And I would just kind of throw those raw onions in there. Now I might put a little saute in there, but back then I was like, hey, yay, I've got these yellow onions. So I would just, slice up a few kind of rings of them and then throw them in there and just to add some of that flavor and it was so stick to your ribs. It was so good. I really kind of, even now I'm thinking about that. I'm like, Yeah, I've gotta make some of that chicken and rice soup when it gets cold. When it gets really cold, I'll be out there making it again. Now, when I first started this show, I was like, we're staying in the kitchen. I'm not going out of the kitchen. I would have talked to people in the kitchen in Aunt Lainey's kitchen. But then I started to realize that, again, I love cooking in the kitchen, spending time in the kitchen with friends and family or just on my own. But I also know that for me, I do like restaurants. I do like a good restaurant. What can I say? I really like I'm really kind of a lunch person, and I'm working downtown for a bit, and so, 5 days a week, and so as a result, I'm discovering, like, these really little hidden treasures of restaurants. Now, as I talk to people, people are like, "Girl, that has been there forever." Okay, that's fine, but it is new to me, and so I have found a few restaurants that I'm going to review, and they're kind of different. They all kind of have their own kind of, special thing about them. But first, before I do all that, I do wanna tell you what my criteria like, how I'm rating these restaurants. So, I am a very down to earth person, and that's how I wanna do reviews, right? And so when I start a review, what I'm looking for is when I step into the restaurant, what's the vibe? What's the atmosphere, right? I wanna know what that is. What am I kind of sensing? Is it really trendy? Is it more down home? Like, is it packed to the gills, or is it hardly anybody's there? Like, again, like, what's going on? And sometimes, I've gone to restaurants where, the kitchen is wild, right? Like the chef is yelling at people, the manager, the house front of house people are yelling at people, and the food might be good, but maybe I don't always want to go to that place just because, the vibe is not calming for me. Although there are some times where I just want that ruckus kind of vibe, but not all the time. Okay, so I look for the vibe, what the atmosphere is. And next, the food. How does it taste? What kind of ingredients were used? Like, what's the presentation? I look at that as well. And then service, how was I treated? Did the food take a long time? Now there's some things and sometimes like on the weekends during lunch rushes, all that stuff, your food might take a long time and that's okay. But I mean, if I'm eating at 1 o'clock on a Saturday and the restaurant's kind of half full and I ordered something very simple, I do kind of have the expectation that it's not going to take you like 30 minutes to make do a burger and fry meal, especially when it's not really busy in the restaurant, or to do like a chicken Caesar salad. Why is it taking so long? Again, when the restaurant is like half empty and it's just not a busy time. So I look at that. That's what I look at. Parking. How accessible is parking? Is it better for me to go at lunch or dinner? There's some places that I don't even go to at dinner time because the parking is not going to be great, right? And then I don't want to have to walk a long ways, especially at night. That's not like my best plan. I don't want to do that. So they might be it might be a place where I go do a lunch or I do a very early dinner because some places open at 4 o'clock for dinner. So then I'm that person who's there at like 4:30 and I do like my dinner and then I'm out of there by 5:30 going on with the rest of my night. There's some places that are like that for me. Now, the first place, Charisse, it's located downtown KC. And so the vibe of Charisse, I got a very bistro, like American bistro vibe from there. And it's a place where I would either, dine solo at the bar. I might go there for a date night. I might go there with a group of friends, a small group, right? And I wouldn't bring like 25 people there, but, maybe like a four top, six at the max place. And I really like that it's got like American grill food, but it also has things like duck-filled wontons. So I go into the restaurant last month and I'm thinking, I'm craving a smash burger and fries. That's what I'm craving. But then I look at the menu and I'm like, okay, and again, I'm on lunch, right, at work. I'm looking at the menu, I'm like, duck-filled wontons. Now I do love a good wonton. What is this all about? So I found myself kind of like, looking at it and like, going back and forth and even kind of I have a group chat. Like, I don't know, should I try these? Like, what do you guys think? And of course, everyone's like, yeah, girl, you gotta try it. So, I was kind of like, trying to understand like what, trying to figure out like a course of action for myself. So in the duck wontons, and I am on their website, it's ground duck with a ponzu glaze and a port reduction. And when I tell you those duck wontons, honestly, I probably could have just eaten those and been fine. But I was kind of still craving that burger. But it was so good. And it was so good. And they had that sauce was really nice and I was slowly savoring them. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is like, and in my mind, I'm like, this is the perfect kind of quick bite that, that if you were someone who, like for me, like if I wanted to like fill up a little bit, but I didn't want to be completely full, I would definitely for myself order something like the duck wontons. That's kind of would be my go-to move. So then after eating that, and I'm like, okay, it's pretty good. And then my smash burger came out and it was really good. It was filling, it was very filling, and the fries came out. And I really appreciate that the fries were like, because again, the burger was actually pretty substantial, but I appreciate that the fries were like the skinnier fries because when you've got a bigger smash burger, like getting the big steak fries for me, it's like it's a little too much, especially at lunchtime. I don't want to take any, I don't want to have to walk back to work and with a to-go box. And then I have to remember that to-go box before I go home, for the day. So I try not to take things to go for lunch just because I kind of know that, I've still got to work for like another 4 or 5 hours. But for myself, I definitely will be going back to Charisse because I feel like it's just a one-stop restaurant. Like if you're celebrating something, you just kind of want to be chill. Like for me, as I say that, like if I'm celebrating something, if I just want to be chill, that's kind of like where the kind of place that I am going to go to and return to. It's going to kind of be a go-to. Now I went to a coffee shop called Prefix. I think it's called Prefix, and it's located downtown. And the thing about this is that I remember when it was like a chain coffee, and it was throwing me off because I hadn't worked downtown for like 5 years. So everything is really different to me. Everything is more built up and whatever. And so I go in there and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, this used to be another coffee shop, like a national chain coffee shop, that's moved down the street. It used to be like a Starbucks, and I'm like, okay. And so I like the vibe of Prefix because it's a big open space, and it's kind of in that Lightwell building, and that Lightwell building has it's like I think like 12th and Baltimore. That Lightwell building has like an art there's like art gallery thing in there, and then there's like Strength Hall Collective, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. So I kind of went in there and I was like, man, if I didn't have things to do at lunch, I didn't have to run more errands, I would just stay and look at the art. I did, and I've done that a couple days prior to kind of going into Prefix for the first time, because I was like, wait a minute. I was actually looking at the art first, and I was like, is that a coffee shop down there? What is that? I love it. It for me, I could see myself working down there if I had to like, take an early meeting or something like that, and I wanted to kind of work from a coffee shop before I had to go in. I definitely without that for me, that would be kind of the place I would go because it's really mellow, and it's kind of got like it's definitely I love the vibe of it. And I ordered a chocolate chip cookie because I didn't want to, because it was kind of later in the day and I didn't want to get like a coffee or anything like that. Um, and so I ordered that cookie. The cookie was really good. I don't know if they make their own cookies. I don't know, but it was a really hearty kind of chocolate chip cookie that was like it wasn't super round and big, like kind of what you see at certain truck stops and stuff like that, but it definitely was a thicker cookie. And oh my gosh, it was so good. And of course I ate it before I went and picked up my lunch because for me, life is short. I do need to kind of eat dessert first. That's kind of how I roll. Now I'm gonna wrap up the restaurant review with the Straying Hall Collective at Lightwell. And I had so the first time I actually went here, I had like they had these little wontons and I had them and they were good. They're like nice little uh bite size, or maybe they were crab rangoon. They were nice and bite size, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so good. It was perfect because I was gonna go and have like a heavier dinner that night, so I just needed something to take the edge of my hunger off, but I didn't need to be completely full. And that I think it was crab rangoon. Those definitely did that for me. I really appreciated that. And I definitely will go back and for myself go back and order some to go maybe. And then the next time I went in, I got a steak baguette and fries. Oh my goodness, it was so good. Like I really enjoyed it. Like I liked how they cut the steak. So, and the sandwich for, sometimes in steak sandwiches, they make that steak so they cut it so thick you can barely chew through it. But in this case, the one I got, that it was sliced thinly enough where you could, bite down on it, eat the sandwich, and not feel like, you're gonna have a situation like they didn't fill it so much where steak was falling out with each bite, but it was also you can actually taste that there was steak and it wasn't just a situation where they had some steak, but they really tried to load it down with veggies and they tried to kind of give you like an empty sandwich. So I appreciated that. The fries were really, really good. They had a nice crisp to them. They were like the right size again. They're like a thinner fry, which when I'm eating a bigger sandwich, I appreciate that. Otherwise, you're sitting there, you're like, "Oh my gosh, I still have all these fries left." What am I gonna do? Like, oh my, I don't want to have to take this home because, I'll reheat up fries, but sometimes for me in my experience, fries don't heat up well the next day. Not like, you would think they would, but they don't always. Some do. I know my grandma used to put them in the oven to kind of give them a crisp, but when I'm hungry, I'm microwaving stuff up because I'm hungry and I know that I can't, just I can't hold out for the crisp. I'm like, "Hey, I need this like right now." And so that's kind of like my restaurant reviews, the places I have been, and I definitely have more plans to do some other reviews. There are some happy hour places downtown that I want to hit up. And because there's again so many cute little places. And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm missing out on all these cute little places." So I've got my list. I'll be definitely working my list, just to kind of make sure that I'm hitting all the happy hour spots that I can before it gets too cold, outside. And yeah, and again, everybody is different with, how they feel about, certain restaurants and meals and happy hours and all that stuff. And that's why, when you do like a food podcast, I'm always very aware that, food is one of those things where people are very passionate about it, which is good, but sometimes it can be a little like you're like, okay, you get feedback and you're like, oh, well, thanks for the feedback. And gosh, I'm just talking about a chocolate chip cookie here, but I realize as I've gotten older, it's not always just a chocolate chip cookie. Sometimes there's so many great memories or maybe traumatic memories that are, associated with said chocolate chip cookie. So I do try to be mindful of, some of the things that, I'm talking about and maybe some of the feedback or observations that I have. So, restaurant reviews, we have done them. Now, I'm going to do a little extra because this is a solo show. And I've got plans for October. And I talked about the things that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to bring back some of those October memories, but I'm also going to be, doing some recipes, some different things in my kitchen. And I'm definitely with the climate today, I'm definitely doing a lot more shelf cooking. And that shelf cooking kind of relies on me kind of looking to see what's in my pantry. And as a result, trying to figure out, hey, how am I going to make this work? Where how am I going to make this work? And where it's something where like I'm going to actually eat the food, or am I going to get sick of the food? So I'm kind of working on portion sizes, right? And that's one of the things I've been working on, when I bring my lunch to work and everything. I used to just do it for the whole, like I would do it like from like Sunday to Wednesday, and then I would, put something together for Thursday and Friday. But now I'm kind of doing, I'm meal prepping, but it's more like, okay, Sunday to Tuesday, and then I've got some really easy ingredients I can throw together for Wednesday through Friday. I feel like that's keeping me from getting burnt out, because I can tell you there have been times where I'm so burnt out, even though I'm doing the ingredient kind of meal prep, where I'm like, okay, I can't have any more ground beef, or I can't have any more sliced tomatoes and anything. Like so again, it's kind of trial and error, but it's also kind of, giving yourself variety without doing too much. And because, at the end of the week, if I've got food left over, and, I've got to throw it out, right? Because it's kind of past its date a little bit. So that's kind of some of the things that I'm looking forward to in October for myself. And my friends and I are talking about, doing some get-togethers. some simple get-togethers, and I know it's so difficult, as I stated earlier in the podcast, with everything out here, with things, all these ideas and all these chances to like, really innovate something. But sometimes it really is just simple ingredients and just hanging out with great people, right? Or just, maybe it's hanging out with yourself. I don't know. But sometimes for me, I need that. I need to kind of have that simplicity, and when it's not about impressing anybody or doing like all these really cool things with food. It's just simple eating, like a simple cheese and cracker tray with maybe like, some summer sausage or, some pancetta on top of it. Just really simple, clean things for myself, and, just kind of doing that. And that's kind of like, what I kind of look for in fall, and the coziness, and kind of, recapturing that. And I've got my own herbs in here. Like I bought some herb plants like a couple months ago. So I've got my mint and my basil and my lavender. And funny story, I wasn't paying attention when I bought like the first round of things that I bought, like my herbs. And so I ended up with two mint plants. I'm like, what the heck? Because I was like, oh, isn't that basil? I'm like, wait, that basil's growing really funny. Yeah, you guys, because I had two mint plants. But the good news is that, mint is really good in mocktails. It's also really good. It's kind of like, sometimes I'll put mint in a crock pot and slow cook it and get that really kind of minty kind of aroma in my house. I kind of like that. And that's what I also do with teas. I've got some teas left over from last year. It's like, oh my gosh, how do I have this tea from last year? But the good news is that I like to take those teas, and I like to put them in a crock pot, and then I also will, kind of cook it up. It's kind of my way of doing, like, those things that you kind of put in there, like the herbs and all the really nice smelling things that, can be put in like a simmer pot. I think they call them like maybe simmer pots. And so I can make my own without having to. And again, I like to support makers and all that stuff, but sometimes I also want to make sure that I'm clearing stuff out of my house, and I'm not, I don't have an overabundance of tea that kind of needs to be thrown out or repurposed. And on that note, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Aunt Lainey's Kitchen. You guys, all the support that I've been given has been amazing. And both on KKFI, and then I have this podcast on my own, like on my own website, my own Aunt Lainey's Kitchen website. And it's the support I've been given has been really amazing. And I look forward to doing more episodes, and and more segments and all that thing, because it's all about, for me, it's all about food, and it's all about, making connections with people and sitting across from people in my kitchen, my proverbial kitchen, and really creating lasting bonds. And that's what it's about for me. So take care, everyone, and please, please enjoy your October.